There you go. Good evening, my name is Councillor Pete Morland. I'm the leader of Milton Keynes City Council. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Cabinet. The meeting is being streamed live on the Council's YouTube channel, and papers for the meeting can be found on the mod.gov pages of the Council website. In addition to members of the Cabinet and any other councillors who have joined us, a number of key senior colleagues are also with us this evening. I would remind ward councillors that you have 1 minute to ask a question and 1 minute for any supplementary questions. There are 15 minutes set aside for councillors' questions. There will be an opportunity for ward councillors to speak on agenda items. Any contributions from non-Cabinet members should not exceed 3 minutes. We move on to apologies. Alex, we haven't received any apologies.
That's correct, Leader.
Cabinet announcements, I have none other than just to record that this is my last ever Cabinet meeting, which is great. We'll move on to, for me, look forward to seeing who is next in the chair. Disclosure of interest, do any members of the Cabinet, any other members of the Council or any officers have any interest in the business to be transacted this evening? So noted. Moving on to minutes, item 4, is the Cabinet happy for me to sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 3rd of February 2026? So you don't have to put your microphones, I will take silence as assent. Super, I will sign those after the meeting. Questions from members of the public? I believe we have one member of the Youth Council to ask a question. Is that correct, Alex?
Yes, Leader. The main question will be asked by Gabrielle Stange-Tallery, and any supplementary questions to be asked by Naomi Jenkins.
Okay, can you go and sit at the question table, please? Okay, you have up to a minute and then a minute to ask a supplementary question. And just when you press the button, if you want to say your name again and that you're from the Youth Council for the official record. Thank you.
Gabrielle Stange-Tallery from the Youth Council. Good evening. In light of the UK Government's 2026 SEND strategy, many young people in Milton Keynes, particularly those with existing education, health and care plans, EHCPs, or those who are currently awaiting assessment, are experiencing significant anxiety about how these national changes will affect them. Could the Council clarify how these proposed reforms will be implemented locally, including any planned changes to specialist provisions such as Slated Row School, Redway schools, and any future development of inclusion bases within mainstream settings, in addition to any new infrastructure required to deliver the strategy?
Thank you. You switch your microphone off. Councillor Hearnshaw.
Thank you for your question. It's really positive that the SEND White Paper has now been published and sets out the government's ambition for inclusion for all children. It sets out a long-term vision for the future of the education system, one that prepares our children for rapid technological change. It's moving so rapidly, while strengthening the role of families, schools and communities. It positions schools as universal public services and key agents of social change, with strong home environments and inclusive schooling forming the foundation for improved life chances. It also, however, highlights enduring challenges, including curriculum relevance, enrichment, attendance, workforce recruitment and retention, and disadvantage, particularly for working class pupils and children with SEND. The intention of the SEND paper is to align higher academic standards with inclusion, strengthening evidence-based teaching, and reform how mainstream provision meets SEND needs. Therefore, this is a whole system reform that needs all of our partners at Milton Keynes, including our schools, our parents and our carers, alongside children and young people, and a range of professionals to consider how we implement this ambition locally. So we are really pleased that the White Paper reflects the strategy we ourselves have already adopted across our SEND partnership in the city. We published our partnership strategy last year, and it outlines our vision for children and young people with SEND to belong, to thrive, and to be at the centre of our plans. And this White Paper endorses this approach and enables us to continue to prioritise our most vulnerable SEND young people on the same direction of travel. We're already progressing with SEND inclusion units in a number of our schools, including ensuring provision in those brand new schools currently being built, of which we've had a few already go through delegated decisions, but we are working closely with our schools and multi-academy trusts so we are able to build these in a way that appropriately enables an infrastructure that's both able to meet needs and is sustainable. At present, there are no proposed changes to any of these current special school provisions in the city, but we are meeting with our educational leaders across the city to consider together the opportunities these reforms may bring.
Thank you. Naomi.
Naomi Jenkins from the Youth Council. How will the Council monitor the impact of these changes to ensure that children and young people with SEND continue to receive timely, appropriate and high-quality support? And will the Cabinet member agree to meet with the Youth Council to discuss the strategy in local context?
Councillor Earnshaw.
Yes, thank you. Well, we have a well-embedded SEND partnership board, which alongside an external SEND advisor considers the quality, the timeliness and the appropriateness of the support given to our SEND children and young people. This oversees the progress and outcomes of the support given and enables our partners, including our local Parents and Care Association, to support and challenge the work that's undertaken. And as this continues and we consider the strategy further in the local context, I would be absolutely very willing indeed to meet with the Youth Councils to discuss further. So, yes.
I think it's just important to highlight that the paper published by the government was a consultation paper. It's not the final recommendations, and they might change. And obviously, as a youth council and with a youth mayor, you can input into that consultation. I think that input would be really welcome. And so I think it's probably a little bit early to talk about how the council would monitor something that the government hasn't fully announced in what its proposals are. It'd also be really clear as well that the government have been clear that anybody with a current EHCP would be unlikely to lose the entitlement or EHCP until a review point, either moving into secondary school from primary school or moving into further education from secondary education. I think it's really clear on the work that I do nationally on this is that the changes are effectively fixing a broken system that means that a lot of councils are going to go bankrupt if the SEND system isn't changed, but really the SEND system isn't working. 95% of appeals against local authority decisions are upheld. That says that a system is not working and is adversarial for parents, it's not best for children, but actually what is best for children is that support matches the child's need and they don't need an EHCP plan to get the support they need. And I think that's the aim of the government, and knowing the Minister, George Gould, personally, like I do, I know that the child is absolutely central to the government's aims, and I hope that gives you a bit of reassurance as well. But I do really recommend that the Youth Council, perhaps meeting with the Cabinet member, have a discussion and maybe do sort of send in a response to that government consultation on your own behalf.
Thank you.
Alex, do we have public questions?
Yes, Leader. So we have questions received from Tom Ballman, Alan Francis and Stuart Turner.
Thank you. Tom Ballman, please.
Hi. Wolverton residents have waited 2
Can you
years
just
with a
state your name and
Tom
if
Bullman.
you're representing any organisation for the
Green
record?
Party. Wolverton residents have waited 2 years with a pile of rubble in their town centre. Businesses have struggled, some have closed. The council appointed Wilmot Dixon in February 23, promised construction would start that year, and then walked away from that appointment. Can the Cabinet member say exactly what went wrong, who is accountable for the 2-year delay, and why the renewable energy microgrid, which was promised in the scheme, has been dropped?
Thank you. Can you switch your microphone off, Tom?
Yep.
Firstly, I think it's really disappointing that despite the question originating in 2023, there have been 30 Cabinet meetings that this issue could have been raised by any member of the public, and as a member of the Green Party you choose to come to the Cabinet where we're actually going to agree to move the scheme forward. I think it's quite strange. A lot of the questions that you've asked actually are in the papers that have been published. Well, I would say that the the contract with Wilmot Dixon was not a contract to build, it was a contract to go away and actually take the designs and actually come up with a buildable design. Within that, a lot of the processes, a lot of the actual sort of how you transfer a design to bricks and mortar was worked out, and a lot of good work was done by Wilmot Dixon, but the price they came back with, unfortunately, was far too high to make the scheme viable. In the intermediary period, as you will read in the paper, in response to Grenfell, there's been quite a significant amount of legislative change that impacted the price, but it also meant that the quality of build and there had to be changes in the build, and unfortunately that knocked on to us not being able to let the contract. I think it's good, hopefully, that we're going to let the contract later. But again, if you'd have read the papers, what it clearly says is the change to legislation in 2022 means a battery that was required for the microgrid of that size was not able to be stored in a town centre. The risk of that was too high and it would be essentially illegal. So that's why there's no microgrid, but each of the houses will have solar panels because it is a high-spec scheme about regeneration. And finally, I just want to address that question about the bricks in the city, in the town centre. There are still bricks there because of our sustainable development policy, which means that, you know, waste from the building that's knocked down has been retained on site, so it can be used to level up the site. And as a member of the Green Party, I would assume that you support sustainable construction rather than wanting to bring in materials from elsewhere.
Obviously, we'd be delighted that the scheme's progressing at all. I'm interested to know how you're going to communicate with those Wolverton residents who were involved in, scores of them involved in the putting together the neighbourhood plan, hundreds who voted for it 10 years ago. Obviously, they're still puzzled and disappointed at the moment. So how would you communicate with them about the state of play?
Well, what I would say is I think we've got 5 public speakers registered to speak in support of the paper tonight. I think the members of Wolverton Town Council, I think members of the business community, the fact that we've got a business engagement forum, you know, nothing is perfect. The fact that it's been delayed is really difficult, but I would challenge the idea that local residents have been waiting for this scheme for 3 years. Residents in Wolverton have been waiting for this scheme for 40 years, and certainly for the 15 years I've been a ward councillor, the fact that there was a global pandemic, the fact that inflation, particularly construction inflation, was running at 19% at one point, I genuinely think that it's a minor miracle that we're able to get this over the line and actually build it. And I think that with construction hopefully starting, if we pass the paper tonight and then it's accepted at full council, with construction starting in April, that is only a good thing, and I'm sure we can communicate that out to residents, and that you can use your good offices politically neutrally to communicate that as well.
Thank you.
Who else have we got? Alex?
Alan Francis, Leader.
Thank you. Alan?
Thank you, Chair. Alan Francis, Milton Keynes Green Party. Given your announcement at the beginning of the meeting about it being your last cabinet, I guess that means it's our last sparring session as well. I'm going to read my question as it was submitted 2 days ago. I'm aware events changed a couple of hours ago, but we'll get on to that. So the question is, the consultation on the draft summary local transport plan is now more than halfway through the consultation period, but the draft full local transport plan has still not been published. Both the leader and the cabinet member had given assurances that the draft full local transport plan would be made available as part of the consultation process on the summary. Why has this not happened so far, and when will the full LTP be made available?
Thank you, Alan. I've got the answer to this. Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it? Yeah. Well, the papers that you want have been published. Again, this is the first of the stage of the current consultation. You can continue to make comments. When this consultation is finished, all the comments will be brought together and any particular changes will be made to the final consultation document, which will again be commented on probably in the summer or early autumn.
Thank you for that. we shouldn't have to go through these lengths of asking questions just to get the document published, which is, I was told a couple of hours ago, I think is when it was actually published. But 3 of the key sections are missing. They are blank. They say to be completed later. Those are on carbon impacts, implementation and targets. When will those be available?
I'm fairly sure if you'd have not asked a separate question to your supplementary question, and we'd been able to answer it. But as I say, this is a consultation that will then feed into the final document that will then be required to be consulted on again. Like a local plan, a local transport plan is an iterative document that is actually sort of built up through consultation and through separate sections. That is prescribed in law, and actually it is, as you will know, transport plan is reserved to a council power. It is not an executive power, so the final say will ultimately be down to council, probably, I believe, in September next year. Any more takers, Alex?
Stuart Turner, Leader.
Oh. Again, Stuart, I know you've asked questions before, but just your name and any organisation you represent for the record. Thank you.
Stuart Turner, resident of Milton Keynes. Leader, I have followed the draft city plan and the local transport plan and find that there is limited evidence to explain MK Metro. My concern is that the proposal for MK Metro will be a retrograde technological step, and that the legal pathway provided by the UK Automated Vehicles Act and its application to advance publicly accessible travel needs to be strengthened. To address this, I ask the Cabinet to consider some additional evidence-based work. A request is made for an autonomous transitional strategy to be prepared specifying triggers to replace driven electric buses with modular autonomous driverless vehicles. The future-proofing provision is seen to be critical to avoid a risk of technological redundancy and to ensure that an effective Phase 1 digital platform is in place. Can you help?
I think the microphone, please, Stuart.
Yep, sure.
I think the honest answer to that is I'm not a transport expert, but thankfully I am leader of an organisation that has the resources and the ability to be able to have our own transport planners who are obviously experts in the field, but also have access to numerous experts. The business case and the technical case for the MRT is being produced by Arup. Obviously, as Alan Francis has just pointed out, we are in the middle of a consultation to a draft local transport plan. If you have any comments about what you think should be in that draft local transport plan, you should make comments to that consultation. And I'm sure our experts will take them as seriously as they should.
Thank you, Leader. I'm pleased that the full transport plan has now been published, so I might have access and get some answers on that. I would also say, since I submitted the question, I have been able to speak to 2 of your cabinet ministers, 2 of your cabinet members, and also the head of planning and also the head of transport, and that conversation has been very helpful, very positive and reassuring, so I can go here with a very positive position. And can I wish you good luck in your future position, whatever it might be. Thank you.
That is no problem. I have started waking up at 4 in the morning, remembering I've got a mortgage to pay from May the 7th and actually no job at the moment. So if anybody is watching that needs a former council leader as an employee, please get in touch straight away. Sooner the better. Thanks for your comments, Stuart. Like I say, I think when I was recently throwing out a chest of drawers, I found a bit of a former MK citizen from the early 1990s. I think I shared it with Cabinet, and the headline was, new transport plan to get people out of cars and onto public transport, aim of new city plan, 1992. I don't think we've achieved it yet, but I think as we move forward with our strategy for 2050, the work that the Director of Planning and Placemaking is doing, it's good that we've just been awarded some funding by Homes England jointly to work with them and MHCLG on the business case for MRT. I'm not sure what documents we can share with a member of the public, because obviously if we shared them with you, we'd have to share them with everybody. That's only right and proper, but those documents no doubt will be shared as part of the evidence base, both for the local transport plan and for the local plan when it comes to inspection after its Regulation 19 submission. So thank you very much indeed for your words, and as I say, hopefully, in terms of going round in circles as a council for nearly 40 years, like the Agora, this is something that we can actually achieve under the next leader.
Thank you, Chair. We'll do the best to help you with that challenge.
Fantastic. Councillors' items. We have no councillors' items.
That's correct, Leader.
Thank you. And I can exclusively reveal, after 12 years as leader, that's an item on the agenda that I don't know what it's for, and it does appear that not many councillors know what it is for, and therefore it probably needs a review to either make it worth its while or remove it. Moving on to councillors' questions. Do any members of the council wish to speak or ask a question? No? Thank you. So noted. Nobody online. Alex, before we move on? No, that's correct. Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, moving on to references from other bodies. We have none. Is that correct?
That's correct, Leader.
Super. Okay, item 9, reprocurement of shared income management system. Councillor Townsend.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leader. I think I win the award for least exciting item on the agenda this evening with this decision. So this is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a reprocurement of the shared income management system. So this is the system that we use, and we share it with two Northamptonshire councils, basically for kind of cash payments, invoices, that sort of stuff, kind of the day-to-day. We first took out this contract in 2022. It is due to expire in 2026. We invested some money into it recently to get it up to kind of a spec where we want it to be. So it's best value for money right now that we reprocure the same, because obviously we've just invested in it. It does what we want it to do. So a new system would cost more, and that's all explained in the paper.
Thank you. Do any members of the public indicate... any members of the public indicated they wish to speak on this item, Alex?
No, Leader.
Any members of the council wish to speak? Councillor Townsend, do you want to sum up?
I don't think there's really anything to add, thank you.
No. Is Cabinet happy to accept recommendations 1.1 to 1.3? Are they agreed? Thank you very much. Moving on to item 10, Sustainability Action Plan, update on the carbon reduction objectives. Councillor Mahendran.
Thank you, Leader. So this is just part of our regular reporting on our sustainability strategy. We just took the new sustainability strategy, which was a slightly more exciting document. We also this week held a sustainability conference as well, which was fully sold out and had people from across businesses, across different organisations, community organisations in the city, which was very exciting. The paper before you tonight is an update on our emissions, along with some other information. Our Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions have come down. The Scope 3 emissions are slightly higher, and that is because of additional things being added into the reporting. And it's always good to have a clearer idea of where those Scope 3 emissions are. But we do work actively with all of our contractors to get their sort of buy-in into this journey. Additionally, in the papers are some of the projects that we're working on at the minute on the sort of council internal stream. We also have a citywide stream. So just as a few examples, we've introduced a procurement playbook. So for example, if someone is procuring something exciting like a shared income management system, that all officers across the council feel empowered to be taking decisions in sort of the most sustainable, environmentally friendly way, and considering net zero in those decisions. We've also secured millions of pounds through the public sector decarbonisation scheme to link our public buildings up to the very exciting citywide heat network that's coming in, which will provide the Civic, Wifton Leisure Centre and the Central Library with decarbonised heat, which will not only make us more environmentally friendly, but also be more cost efficient as well. And we are also working with the Parks Trust to build a carbon sink forest. And some of the less flashy stuff is we're looking at introducing things like bogs and peatland, which might not be exciting to most people, but they are far more effective in sequestering carbon than something like trees. So I'm very excited about our potential bogs. That is the main points I wanted to make on that. Thanks, Leader.
Congratulations on saying something I'd never thought I'd hear at Cabinet. Alex, do we have any members of the public that were registered to speak?
No, Leader.
Councillor, any members of the council wish to speak? Councillor Hendren, do you want to sum up?
Do you not want to speak about my bogs, Marie? Thank you. Just to say a big thank you in particular to Gemma Drake and Nick Cannon. As I said at the Sustainability Conference, with part of the work that we've been doing to sort of transform the sustainability team in-house, we have a really exceptionally talented and dedicated team working on sustainability, which is really exciting and really good for the city. Thank you.
Thanks. And before we just take the recommendations, I also want to take a second, because it was my portfolio at one point, and I was Vice Chair of Energy Cities. A lot of this work at first, particularly the council stuff, was done by Neil Allen, who will be leaving us at the end of the month. Now, he spent nearly 2 decades working as head of regulatory. It fell under him because it was a regulatory service at one point, reducing carbon. And I always remember when I was on a conference with him, the mayor of Munich once said, how big is your climate change department? And I pointed at him and said, it's him over there. He also does taxis. And the mayor of Munich said, we spend £3 billion a year on it. So considering that's the spend that Munich do, and where we are, we have genuinely positioned ourselves as one of the leading carbon reduction cities, not just in this country, but across Europe and beyond. And I think that a lot of that work has been down to Neil, Jeremy Draper before him, but also sort of the work of other cabinet members and people in that team going forward. So is the cabinet happy to agree recommendations 1.1 to 1.2? Is that agreed? Thank you. Update on council delivery plan. This is the last meeting that will no doubt cover the current phase of the council delivery plan, which is the council arm of the implementation of the current council strategy. The good news is that over the past 2 years, as we've been working towards this administration, we've managed to deliver 95% of those things, number being bolstered, I think, by item 12, 13 and 14 on the agenda tonight. Thank you very much. But also just the general work that the council do. So I think 95% is a stunning thing. I think in an era when trust in politics and trust in politicians is, I suppose I could describe it as low, actually delivering what you say you're going to deliver and being able to point to it is hugely important. But what is also hugely important is what is not within the council plan. A lot of the day-to-day work of the council, keeping children safe, making sure that we're delivering adult social care, all of those things you don't necessarily put in a council plan, but actually on a day-to-day basis the council is delivering and our staff deliver. So I think on behalf of the administration, we'll ask the Chief Executive to make sure that we thank all the staff in your next Watch Michael little videos that you do. So that would be really helpful. But thank you very much indeed. Any members of the Cabinet want to add anything? Any members of the public registered to speak on this?
No, Leader.
Any members of the council wish to speak? Okay, has Cabinet agreed that 1.1 is agreed? Thank you. Item 12, which is, it's the Bletchley and Fenny Vision Guide. Oh, that's me again. I thought this was you, Shanika. No. So the Bletchley and 2050 vision is very important. As I sit on the town deal board, and a number of colleagues do in the room, I think it's interesting that we have consistent discussions about improving the public realm, what we're going to do with Sainsbury's, what we're going to do with the Brunel Centre. We're going to talk about the eastern entrance to Bletchley Station next. But for quite a long time, obviously, what the discussions have lacked is an overall narrative and an overall vision linking together and being able to communicate to the public of what Bletchley might look like and feel like at the end of this process, or iteratively. I don't think there is ever an end to a regen process. What objectives we want to achieve, both strategically, sort of slightly philosophically, but also in bricks and mortar. A great example of that is car parking. There are endless discussions in Bletchley around pavement parking, about what we're going to do about pavement parking, around where those car parking spaces are located, about one-way systems. And it's really easy to be able to say, you know, parking should be here, not there, or there's lots of parking over there. But to take people through that process of being able to say, actually, in the medium and long term, we don't want people just parking on a pavement, running into a shop, running back out of a shop, getting into their car and leaving after 5 minutes. What we want for Bletchley is people to park in the right place, or get the train into Bletchley, or get public transport into Bletchley, MRT into Bletchley, and actually use the Bletchley Park or the National Museum of Computing and the fabulous new artwork commemorating Alan Turing that we're going to put up there, and actually spend time in Bletchley. Because when we knock on doors in Bletchley, how many times have we heard people tell us that they still remember when it was a cattle market, when people came into town, and this is still within a living memory, where people came into town and Bletchley was one of the primary centres of Buckinghamshire. And over the past 50 years, things have changed. But that doesn't mean that Bletchley doesn't intrinsically have a lot of strengths. We need to build on those strengths, and we definitely as an administration want to put the heart back into Bletchley. And I think this vision guide gives all of the decisions and all of the complex things that we're deciding on, whether it's the old police station, the old fire station, Sainsbury's building, the eastern entrance. It gives an overarching narrative and an overarching direction of what we want to achieve in Bletchley, and I think it's a good thing to do. What I want to place on record, particularly the help of Bletchley and Fenny Town Council in delivering this, how it dovetails in particularly well with the Bletchley and Fenny Town Council neighbourhood plan, which is absolutely essential, because this isn't just a vision, it's got planning guidance behind it. It's a document that complements the neighbourhood plan, and on what decisions of the planning committee as well as the council, the administration and council itself can take. Does anybody wish to speak on this item? Councillor Townsend.
Yeah, I was on Bletchley High Street yesterday on Queensway, and I think what's really exciting about this scheme is that it's not just a vision, but like it's already being implemented. So there are already crews out working along the high street to improve the parking situation and to improve the street scene there for people. I think the vision is right in the priorities that it sets out. I love the focus on kind of like community and culture and like embracing creativity in Bletchley and enhancing spaces for people. I think the focus on jobs and skills is right, and I think the connectivity is really important as well. You know, we're going to be on a train line when Universal Studios is built. We are going to be on a direct train line for that. Bletchley will be in a perfect location to, you know, attract more investment to the area. So it's right that we're doing this now to prepare for that eventuality in 2030. And yeah, just thank you for everyone who's been doing the very comprehensive consultations and briefings. And I know that residents have really appreciated it. I know that we spoke to some residents yesterday on the high street. And a lot of them, some of them hadn't been to the sessions, but when we explained the work that was happening, they were very, very excited to hear about it. So yeah, thank you for all of your work, and this is a good thing.
Councillor Mahendran.
Thank you. I just wanted to briefly touch on some of the elements of the plan around jobs and skills, and to talk about, with my economic development portfolio hat on, about some of the great work that the team has been doing there. Lewis in the economic development team has done a report on the future of the high street to support with sort of keeping Queensway and the local high streets in Bletchley flourishing, which Bletchley and also all of our other high streets are performing better than national averages at the minute, and we really want to see that continue. But I also just wanted to mention the work of Suki Gill, who has been doing an extensive amount of engagement with businesses in Bletchley and doing monthly networking events, which has been really well received. And the last point I wanted to make is just it is a really exciting time for Bletchley. As Councillor Townsend mentioned, obviously residents of Bletchley, we all know from knocking on doors and speaking to them, have had promises made to them time and time again. And it's great to see the work finally being delivered, and we can actually see the changes being implemented already. But I did just want to touch on what a difference it makes as well to have a local MP who's working in lockstep with us on this work and has the same kind of ambition. And in my portfolio, I get to sit on Callum Anderson's Bletchley Investment Task Force. So while we're doing work to support businesses on the high street and around Bletchley, Callum is working hard with venture capital firms and big organisations like the Dons, the MK College, to attract investment externally as well. And I think that highlights how we view Bletchley as being a place that, as Councillor Townsend mentioned, with those increased connectivity links, can be a place that people want to come and do business, building on its long legacy as, in particular, a hub of tech and AI.
Do any other councillors want to speak? Cool. We'll move on then. Just want to thank Darryl and his team for all his work, and obviously his predecessors and all of the team that have been working on it. I want to thank the Bletchley and Fenny Town Deal Board. I think their input has been greatly appreciated, as has the input of the community into this document. I think it's really important to remember this is not the council saying this is our vision. It is actually a community vision about what they've told us they want to see, and compromises on all sides. I think that it's like that's not deliverable, that's not realistic, but at the same time, things like improving the public realm to make sure that people want to stay on the high street will in turn, and we're going to talk about this no doubt as part of the Agora decision, making people come into an area, keeping them there, going into shops is actually integral to regeneration. Is the council agreed that we approve that as our long-term strategic document, setting out the vision and priorities for the future of regeneration and growth in Bletchley and Fenny? Are we agreed? Super. Moving on to item 13, Bletchley Railway Station Eastern Entrance. Again, this is the paper partly forms an update, but there is a substantive part to this decision. Welcome that East West Rail recently announced that they've accepted the business case for an eastern entrance or eastern station, and moving part of the train station in Bletchley to the eastern entrance. For those that maybe don't know Bletchley or sort of need orientation, eastern entrance essentially means the town centre side of the bridge. At the moment, as most people will know, the station is on the non-town centre side, opposite the college, and that intrinsically, as always, the railway line is always intrinsically separated, sort of one side of Bletchley from the other, and not having a railway entrance on this side means that visitors that come out of the station, particularly to visit Bletchley Park, which is, it's a national attraction, it's an international attraction, attracts visitors from all over the country and all over the world to see the fantastic work that we did in Bletchley, helping the Allies win the Second World War, also the legacy of the National Computing Centre, and visitors to the Institute of Technology. Probably many visitors don't even know Bletchley Town Centre is there if they get off the train, because they're not going to go under the bridge and they're not going to go into town. You know, and as part of the vision that we've just signed off, it is about making sure that people know Bletchley Town Centre is there, that so those coachload of people that maybe are coming from Japan, coming from you know, a couple of days at Universal, but also want to go to Bletchley Park, can go and spend time in a tea room or a restaurant in Bletchley Town Centre. And I think that's really, really important, and to have the eastern entrance as that connectivity, particularly when the Brunel Centre and Sainsbury's has been knocked down, the fact that we can reconnect that road, as we will be in Wolverton, reconnecting a road to as it should be, sort of being able to pull people through, so people will be able to, from the station, see all the way down Queensway, all the way into the town centre and see what's on offer in Bletchley. I think it's a great thing. The substantive decision in front of us as a Cabinet is to essentially repurpose town deal funding. There was an underspend on the transport hub. There's been possibly some underspend in the other works that we're doing to effectively allocate that money, plus the tariff money, that is also potentially available for this scheme as part of our growth, allocate that money to a pot that particularly East West Rail can go to the Department for Transport or potential other funding bids. You know, there are a lot of funding bids that come forward for government around the growth mission that we're able to actually say, the council, we're putting our money where our mouth is, we're putting forward this money to match fund or potentially sort of the business cases there. But I think, unlike saying going and asking for £25 million, asking for £15 million from government and showing that this is a serious part of regeneration often means that government and particularly the Treasury are more likely to release funds. Does any member of the council wish to speak? There are no public speakers.
That's correct, Leader.
Rupert, are we happy to agree 1.1 and 1.2 in the recommendations, which is basically moving that funding around and that any other funding within the town deal programme or tariff is moved to the Bletchley Rail Station Eastern Entrance? Is that agreed? Fantastic, thank you. Item 14, I need to do a little spiel on item 14 because some of the decision are on pink papers. So I need to remind everybody present and resolve that the public and press be excluded from the meeting by paragraph 3, information relating to the financial business affairs of the authority, of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. Essentially, this is so we can publish the minutes as confidential annexes. Members of the council can remain, and we hope when we move into discussion that we don't need to exclude the press and the public from the meeting where we make the decision, because our primary aim is transparency and openness around this decision. So if any of members, generally members of the Cabinet or members of the council wish to speak to the pink papers, could they indicate now? Noted. Noted. If you do start to talk about the pink papers during the decision, I will have to exclude members of the public and officers and other members of the council that shouldn't be here. Councillor Townsend.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very, very happy to be bringing this decision tonight. There is a couple of very, very boring bits that I just need to cover off first. So there are a couple of mistypes in the numbering, and these will be rectified before the paper goes to full council in 2 weeks' time. But on page 2, at 1.3, right at the bottom, it says subject to 1.6 A to D. That should be changed to 1.3 BV and VI. I'm no good at Roman numerals. What is that, 5 and 6? And then on page 13, 13, after 3.19, that should then be 3.20, 3.21, 3.22. So that will be rectified before the decision goes to full council. Now into the exciting bit of the decision. So thank you to Milton Keynes Council officers and to town for the hard work that has gone into getting this scheme back off the ground. This decision was, the decision on Agora was originally taken in 2021, and as we know, there have been some issues since then that have delayed the scheme. So there was an issue with a certain budget being set and inflation costs, particularly impacted on construction costs, and overnight contractors basically wouldn't price this kind of scheme for us, and then when we did eventually get the prices through, they weren't what we would have liked them to be and what we had initially discussed. It's also a very, very complex site. It is in a conservation area. We have designed it to be very, very high spec. This is an award-winning design that we're very, very proud of. We wanted to ensure that we took that design forward because that's very important to the people of Wolverton. It's a high-density area. The ground levels, it turned out to be a little bit more uneven than we thought for the scheme that we wanted. So there have been complications along the way. Councillor Marland already referenced the Building Safety Act 2022. So again, in terms of designers, contractors, attitude towards risk, particularly risk to do with fire, we had to make some changes to the design, which again delayed things. And we then obviously had to go out to a re-procurement framework to find the new contractor, which we are hoping, we have now secured, but obviously we can't sign it until council have agreed. So we're hoping that will be done very quickly in the next 2 weeks. Everything will get signed off and then we can move ahead. And I know that the Agora working group, I have attended many meetings with you and the message has been clear at all of them, which has pretty much just been, get on with it please, let's have it built. So I'm delighted to say that hopefully after this evening and after full council in 2 weeks, it will only be a couple of months' time and things will start to be built. And the timeline that we've been given is that by the end of 2028, the development will be up, residents will be in, and the new shops will be let and open. So a little bit behind schedule by a couple of years, but we are going to get there, and I think that's the most important thing. In terms of costs, I think it's important to highlight that this is obviously a regeneration scheme. This is not a commercial scheme. So the idea is regeneration in Wolverton, in the town centre, to add value. I mean, we've had an independent, I can never remember the name of this, an independent placemaking and economic consultancy, which is obviously in the papers. Basically, for every pound that we put into the scheme, we're going to get £1.10 back, which doesn't sound like a lot, but over the grand scheme of the scheme, that's a significant amount. And the scheme will have washed its own face and paid for itself in 45 years. So it is an investment, it is regeneration, it's not commercial, but this is a good thing for Wolverton. It's going to reconnect two parts of the town that were separated by the spaceship that was Agora all those years ago. And we're going to bring back the scheme with resi, with commercial units, and with the little streets that will increase connectivity. There's also money included in here for public realm, so after the buildings themselves have gone up, there will be money going on the trees, the planting, highways, making sure that roads are brought back up to spec after construction vehicles have been brought in, includes things like a pocket park, includes a public toilet. So we've tried to stay as true to the original scheme as possible. And basically bringing that traditional working town Victorian terrace back to what it was supposed to be on that traditional grid system before Agora was lumped in there. It is still so it's 115 new homes, just to get into some of the specification. 29 of those units are specifically co-housing for the over 50s, which is something we're very, very excited about. Mixed generational living is something that I believe very strongly in for cohesive, strong communities. We will have 9 commercial units, and I'm told that we do already have some interest in letting those commercial units, which is a great thing. As somebody who lives in Wolverton and spends a lot of time in Wolverton, and goes to the shop on the square and goes to Church Street, and I'm very, very excited at the prospect of us having a bit of a new bustling area to the town. I think that's a very exciting thing. I'm probably going to stop talking now because I suspect there's a lot of other people who want to talk on this. I've gone from the most dull decision of the evening to the most exciting decision of the evening. So over to our other speakers.
Thank you. Alex, we have public speakers.
That's correct, leaders. We have 5 public speakers: Andy Forbes, Karen Parisi, Margaret Newens, James King and Councillor Adrian Moss of Wolverton and Greenleys Town Council.
Thank you. So can I call Andy and Karen, please, first? I'm not going to go through it 3 separate times, so you have up to 3 minutes each. Press the button in front of you to switch the microphone on and just state your name and if you're representing any organisation, and I'll give you around about a 30-second warning if you're coming to the end of your time. And we'll start with Andy.
Hi, Andy Forbes, pastor of King's Church, chair of the Community and Police Forum, hospital governor, chair of the charity, father of 4 married children who all live in Wolverton, have all bought houses in Wolverton, and 9 grandchildren. One in particular who thinks you could make money because he loved seeing the excavators doing the site of the Agora. They will forever be called Scurvators, so if you want to make more money, do bring out a Scurvator. And Pete, last time I saw you, you were in a digger with a hard hat on. Maybe you could model it, sir. There you go, just a bit of fun. Martin Ellison, your listed buildings officer, has worked a long time with me since 2012 on our Grade 2 listed buildings. Of the 4 listed buildings overlooking the square, we own 2. And one of the things he's always taught me is the difference between conservation, preservation, and telling a story. And he said, you always have to remember, you tell a story, because the old has to move on with the new. And I have bought today, much to the embarrassment of some people, 2 Thomas the Tank Engine books, because it's a railway town and our family is littered with them. And the point of that is that actually the story has 3 parts for me. The first part is it's the oldest railway town in the world. I moved there in 1983 as a single young man with 3,500 people in the works. The Agora was a roller skating rink, etc., etc. We started King's Church, we started the youth group, we started the food bank, which we do a quarter of the city with. We have a top-up shop with 13,000 people registered, a lunch drop-in with 18,000 servings, and my wife started Baby Basics, which does about 3,000 to 4,000 baby stuff a year. That's who we are. We love Wolverton. We're passionate about it. The present chapter. We've got renters, which is how we fund ourselves to do these kind of things. The issues that we resisted, and I felt it was important for me to say that, because I didn't just come to the table all like, great, this is a good idea. I actually had some serious objections to start with. The parking won't surprise anybody. The environment, the trees being cut down in the car park, the conservation, the 4 listed buildings at the centre of either side of the car park. The Agora was an eyesore. Everybody cheered when that went down. But obviously it's rubble at the moment and the trees are stumps, etc., etc. A lot of the shops have begun to, 2 of the shops have closed because of the disruption. Which brings me to where I really want to be, which is the future. We've got a chance to change, to write a new chapter in the history of Wolverton, which is the old and the new coming together. Yes, the old is there. We're the oldest Victorian railway town. We should celebrate it. Use the old buffers, use the old railway lines, put tarmac down there, use the names, because we're history. But the new's got to come. Make Wolverton a place to go to with the shops. We're going to open up the square with the scheme. It's going to go into Church Street again. Church Street's going to go along to Creed Street. Creed Street's going to go along to Stratford Road. That's how I've been telling everybody. It's going to be a place to come and shop.
10 seconds.
You'll need parking. It's great. Okay, let's do it. There you go. I'll finish there.
Thank you. Karen.
Okay, I'm a business owner in Wolverton and I actually face this monstrosity and it's not a pleasant sight to look at every single day of the week. I've been in Wolverton for more than 30 years as a business owner. It was once a thriving town. I can't say that it is any longer. As Andy said, businesses are closing down. My next door neighbour, the lovely pet shop's gone. Our wonderful Mrs. B's has gone. And I'm not sure how much longer I'm actually going to remain there either, because it is very, very difficult at the moment. The footfall in Church Street is really, really bad. Our connecting walkways have been lost because of the hoardings that have been placed around the site. So people walk literally round the town rather than through the town. And so we don't have that footfall anymore. It's very difficult for businesses to make any future plans because we really don't know what's going to happen in the town. Is it worth investing in our business or should we just not bother? So that's another point that which people are complaining about. The people of Wolverton wanted to change and they've got that change. They knocked the Agora down. But they really, really want something new built in the town, something to bring other people in and new shop units to complement what's already there. And really, what else have I written down here? We need to pass this so that we can actually move on and encourage business into the town, encourage people to shop amongst us. It's sad to see such a historic town being allowed to, well, just die, really. That's how we feel it. So I really hope that your decision to pass this is a positive one, and that the building will start before summer so we can watch the lovely hunky builders in their shorts and T-shirts doing their Diet Coke moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Noted. Margaret and James, please. Margaret first, please.
Sorry, you first, I think. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Margaret Newens, a board member of Still Green. Nicola Hubbard is also here as another board member of Still Green. We welcome the proposals now before Cabinet for taking forward the Agora Regeneration Scheme. And we're grateful to Council for recommending a change in delivery route for Still Green so that co-housing for over 50s can continue to be an integral part of the scheme. Still Green's board endorses this proposal. Co-housing would widen the housing opportunities for over 50s in Milton Keynes in an exciting way. And we thank Council for the way in which the value of the co-housing project is recognised in the project, in the report. Co-housing communities are self-managed. Members commit to living in a mutually supportive way, being good neighbours to one another, and contributing to the community as we each can. But Still Green seeks to be good neighbours more widely too, so we welcome the opportunity to be part of the all-age development, the wider development. The Agora development is an ideal fit for an over 50s community and our values. It's near to local facilities, services and public transport, in the centre of Wolverton and its vibrant community sector, and we hope to be part of that, contribute to it, with open spaces nearby and a low-carbon development. Co-housing is more common in other European countries than in the UK, but it's gaining momentum here, and many groups are seeking opportunities to develop schemes. 31 communities have been established in the UK, but only one of these is specifically for an older age group. The partnership proposed between the council, town and Still Green would therefore be delivering a pioneering co-housing project for over 50s. Our origins go back to 2009, so we've actually been waiting quite a long time too for this moment. We became involved in the Agora scheme in 2019, so we co-designed with town during lockdown and have persisted through all the challenges since that have already been outlined. The final stage has been working with town on value engineering to help reach the financial position for Block C and the wider scheme now being put forward to Cabinet. Still Green's board and members hope Cabinet will endorse the recommended way forward for this long-awaited regeneration scheme for Wolverton. We remain committed to developing a thriving co-housing community for over 50s here in Milton Keynes. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. James.
Thanks.
Hi, James King. I'm a local resident living in Wolverton. I'm also a director of a landscape and urban design practice with about 20 years experience in projects such as the Agora. I've no involvement in the scheme, but just as a local resident really. Having seen this scheme come forward 3, 4, 5 years ago through the process, initially super excited and still super excited by the quality of the design and the aspiration for the project. And I think the reason that that has to be at that level is because it is a regeneration scheme. To my mind, it's not a housing scheme. It's about regenerating the town centre fully. It's about reconnecting the streets and the square. There is very little amenities moving in, and it's worrying to hear that local shops are shutting because there just isn't the footfall anymore. So it's really vital that we have that in the town centre. So to my mind, the commercial units and getting the right sort of tenants in there as well, absolutely vital for the town centre, above even about the way the housing comes forward. Wolverton needs a catalyst. We've heard about regeneration in Bletchley. We've seen new places opening in Stoney, in Newport Pagnell. My wife doesn't work at the moment. She had to finish working. She could walk into the town centre of Wolverton. There's nothing there really to walk to. She'll get in the car. We heard about the MRT and the transport problems. She'll get in the car and drive to Stoney Stratford because the amenities are better. We deserve that in Wolverton as well. It feels like it's been forgotten a little bit. What were the other things I put down here? It feels, in a way, things have gone backwards a little bit because the site has sat fallow, and I think the idea of waiting another 3, 5, 7, 10 years for another scheme to come forward would be crazy, and the level of investment needed if we were to wait and someone bring forward another scheme that was perceived to be more affordable would probably outweigh and end up costing much, much more than this particular scheme that we've got. There's a set of design drawings there, there's a contractor ready to go. I think I plead that you sign it off and we get the contractors on side so that Wolverton can get the investment it needs, and then it can rise up and fulfil its potential that I think we all feel it has.
Thank you very much. And I think finally, Adrian.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Adrian Moss. I've lived on Buckingham Street in Wolverton for over 27 years, but I address you tonight as a councillor and chair of the planning committee for Wolverton and Greenleys Town Council. Wolverton and Greenleys Town Council welcomes the ambition to regenerate the Agora site and recognises the urgent need for progress. Our community has waited many years for a scheme that truly revitalises Wolverton Town Centre. We also wish to be clear that this statement reflects the needs and aspirations of Wolverton residents and the council. It is not based on any script provided by the developer or any other party. Public confidence depends on an open, impartial decision-making process. Our key concern is that the current proposals, as set out in the financial viability assessment, would deliver significantly less than the original Section 106 agreement secured for Wolverton. Reductions in affordable housing, community facilities and public realm contributions make replacing the Agora with something no better than what exists now, or be more accurate, what we had up to a couple of years ago, rather than the transformational change our community was promised. We recognise that costs have risen and markets change, but the original S106 was a legally binding package of benefits negotiated to ensure regeneration serves Wolverton as well as the developer. If those obligations are reduced without robust challenge and transparency, trust is damaged and a poor precedent is set. We therefore ask Milton Keynes Council if it would consider commissioning an independent review of the financial viability assessment so assumptions and inputs are tested and reported transparently. We ask to include an early review mechanism within any revised S106 so that if market conditions improve, the position can be revisited and further community benefits secured. We ask that these are published, the independent findings, and consult locally before agreeing any reduction in the community package, and to retain clear minimum expectations for affordable housing, public space and community facilities. This is consistent with national policy. The NPPF says planning obligations should be used where necessary to make development acceptable, para 56, and that where up-to-date policies are expected, set expected contributions, schemes should be assumed viable unless the applicant demonstrates otherwise, with viability information made publicly available, paragraph 59. Don't get me wrong, we want to see the site developed, but not at any cost. Please do not allow the promise of regeneration to be delivered by cutting corners or lowering standards. Thank you.
Thank you. To be clear, before Councillor Townsend comes back, because I assume there's no members of the council that wish to speak, Adrian's speech is not a matter for the executive, it's a matter for planning. I think the matter of the 106 will be addressed by the planning committee later, but it is the the paper in front of us. The executive this evening is very clear that unless those contributions are reduced, the scheme is not viable, and therefore, and I think I've said this in the past to Wolverton Town Council, in my letter that I addressed to you fairly recently, a number of compromises has to get the scheme over the line, and a little bit like sort of saying we shouldn't do this or we should do that, but we like the whole thing. The reality is, from the executive's point of view, you cannot say, please do not reduce the 106 contributions, because it makes the scheme unviable. So it ultimately is a choice between, as an executive, taking the decision tonight, recommending the scheme to council on the principle that the planning committee and town, the matter before the planning committee needs to happen. If the planning committee choose not to reduce the 106, the scheme will not happen because it is not viable. Councillor Townsend.
Yeah, thank you everybody for your contributions this evening. Yeah, I mean, I would just echo what Councillor Marlin said. You know, as an executive and as the officers who've moved forward on making sure that this scheme is viable, there is investment in the scheme for public realm. We've made sure of that. The council has also stepped in to make sure that we've invested so that Still Green and the co-housing can still go ahead in Block C, because that's very important to us. It's important to the scheme. It's important to the town. I still think this is a very, very positive thing. I hope that it gets over the line at full council in a fortnight's time, and I hope that we get spades in the ground in the next kind of 6 to 8 weeks.
I'm going to take the fact that this is the last decision of my last cabinet to sort of sum up the fact that it's interesting to talk about what it's like now, but I think just to draw people's minds back to what the Agora was like, not in its heyday in the early 1980s, but what it was like when it's closed. And I remember the former owner, when he threw all of the shopkeepers out with no notice, and we had to run around, and that's when the community came together, and the pet shop shared with the key cutters, and it was a fantastic and highlighted the spirit of Wolverton. Obviously that was a long time ago now, and I just want to thank Neil for all the work that town have done on it. I said to him earlier in the week when we had a meeting about this, that there was a picture of me and him where we're handing over the keys when the council bought the Agora, and we both had jet black hair. Well, I had blonde hair, and he had jet black hair. It's not like that anymore, but it does show the time that has elapsed in this scheme, and we do need to get it on. Just pulling out a few of the things that have been said. The shop units are absolutely vital, but it's also vital to highlight that this is a regeneration scheme, and actually, as a council, we could choose to let out those shops at a completely commercial rate, or we could choose to let out those shops at a rate that regenerates the town. And actually, what is in front of us and what is in the paper, our financial modelling, is that a proportion of those shops can be let out below market rate to encourage the regeneration of Wolverton Town Centre, and I think that is the right thing to do, and shows that this is a regeneration scheme, not a finance scheme. And the same goes as well for a number of the facilities within the scheme. And I do thank the Town Council, because without the Town Council, we would not be able to be providing the public toilets within the scheme. It's absolutely vital that the public toilets are within the scheme. But again, it shows that providing those public toilets, particularly for bus drivers, but also for members of the public, will make sure that people stay in the town centre. But if this was just a commercial scheme, it would not be providing public toilets. You know, a housing operator that was only interested in developing housing would only develop housing. It would not be creating public space, and therefore it's really, really important. I think Councillor Townsend touched on it. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks, when this has been through full council, what we will be able to do is produce a very clear timetable for what is taking place. I think, Karen, you touched on it about the connections between Church Street and the square. You know, the community will be disrupted, and I think it's really important that we highlight when the cut through between Church Street and the square will be cut off, because there'll be building work, when the road is going to be put in, so when that connectivity is going to be, when people can expect dust, the times people can expect building work, you know, the one-way system being implemented, all of that sort of thing. I think it's really vital that we have a very strong communications project to communicate to the people of the town when things are going to happen and how they're going to happen. And again, on car parking, I think there's still work to be done. For instance, if you see the car park now, if you visit it most days, it is full. And it is full not because people are shopping in Wolverton Town Centre, it's because people are parking there, walking down the hill and getting on the train, and that fundamentally affects trade. It means that spaces for people going to worship at the mosque are limited. So we want to have a conversation, make sure with the town council, but also with the liaison group about what is right for that car park. Is it right to put a sensible time restriction on it, not one that restricts people to very short periods, but one that does restrict parking, so people that get on the train use the car park provided at the train station, not damage trade in the centre of Wolverton. I think that's really important. Just got a couple of final thank yous. Thank you to Councillor Townsend for all the work that she's done on this since she took on the portfolio. Thank you for the Town Council and all the work that the liaison group did. And finally, I think I mentioned it at the last full council, thanks to Councillor Rob Middleton, who's obviously standing down as a councillor in Wolverton alongside me, but the work that he did over a number of years, particularly with the liaison group, he took quite a beating at the planning committee that, don't forget, this passed on the casting vote of the chair when it went through the planning committee. It was not an easy ride. People were not completely sold on the scheme as they are now. Councillor Middleton took all of the pain for that, and hopefully by tonight we make this decision, but he won't probably be on the council to see it finished, but you know, he does live nearby, and will, like me, will definitely be very pleased to see this complete. Councillor Townsend, are you happy that we accept recommendation 1.1 to 1.3 with the amendments that you made verbally and have been published in the papers and will be updated to council?
Yes, please do.
Is Cabinet agreed? Thank you very much indeed. I conclude the meeting at 19:42.